Periods kind of suck.
I get a migraine every time I get my period.
Cramps, being moody, stuff like that.
Ruining nice undies.
My breasts get extremely swollen and tender.
But imagine not having easy access to these, this, or that.
Not having like access to, say, like tampons and things like that,
It would suck. I mean, you would just have to find toilet paper in a public toilet and try and just cover it, but it's not sanitary.
You wouldn't have the proper place to clean yourself.
Experiencing homelessness can be demoralising as it is.
There's a lot of things I want to forget about being homeless, especially the homeless period.
But dealing with your period on top of everything else, it's a huge added stress.
It was a bit of an embarrassing thing, I guess. Yeah, a bit undignifying, I guess. I would steal to, but priorities over something like that when you're on a week would be whether to steal tampons or food. It's, it's a bit of a hard thing to think about. It's not nice.
That may seem like an impossible choice, but many face this decision once a month. The Period Project exists to ease this pressure.
So the Period Project is menstrual management and support for people experiencing homelessness. So these are a 1-for-1 subscription. So for every box of these that someone buys, a box is given to someone experiencing homelessness, and we're the distributors of those +1 boxes. They're packed by women who are currently experiencing homelessness now, so women who are currently sleeping rough or sleeping in crisis accommodation services. The unique challenges that people experiencing homelessness face when they're trying to manage their period, it can be easily identified if I say to someone, manage a period but not in a bathroom. See what that's like. Go try and change a pad or your tampon under a bridge or in a park and see if you can do that discreetly. We need to stop thinking of these items as a luxury, as a choice. So what it's going to do is change that social conscience and the way we think about menstrual management as being part of everyday life.
As much as charities like the Period Project are there to support women, according to everyone actually, much more needs to be done. Because the rate of homelessness is only increasing. And as Homelessness Awareness Week finished up last week, many are questioning, what now? According to Dr. Juliet Watson, the Deputy Director of the Unison Housing Lab at RMIT University, we have to understand what causes homelessness and who is suffering.
Homelessness is generally a result of structural issues. So we're talking about things like poverty, we're talking about stigma, marginalisation. We need to consider things like gender, like age, sexuality, all different structural aspects that contribute to people becoming homeless. There are actually forces at play that occur at that structural level, at that institutional level, that contribute to people becoming homeless and staying homeless.
The people that we see sleeping rough are only about 6% of the actual homeless population. So it's only the tip of the iceberg. This population is a lot bigger than what we actually see.
And the other 94%? These people are usually stuck between boarding houses, emergency accommodation, and couch surfing. In Victoria, we operate on a crisis model to deal with homelessness, meaning people can only get accommodation when they meet the crisis eligibility. And right now, the demand for emergency housing is way bigger than the supply. It's an endless cycle. To get into crisis or transitional accommodation, you've got to present with the worst crisis in a growing litany of crises.
So our system is the fact that it's so crisis focused, and we're allowing this as a system, allowing that continual breakdown to happen before they can get any support, is not an ideal starting point. A lot more work needs to be put in, a lot more time needs to, and people are broken. They're absolutely broken because they've been forced into positions where they, have had to burn out everybody in their life before they get assistance.
If you miss out on the limited accommodation, you're left to grapple with the repercussions of the housing affordability mess.
We know here in Melbourne in particular, housing affordability is very difficult for a lot of people. So this absolutely compounds other problems that people might be having. We do not have enough public housing, and we also have not enough crisis accommodation for people when they first become homeless. You actually need sustained government support and funding to look at ending homelessness.
But even if securing public housing was made easier, it isn't a solution on its own. Transitional accommodation here is usually offered with 3-month leases only for up to 12 months.
But it's not enough time for our people to be able to actually work on their issues, to feel like they're stable enough to actually work on and deal with their issues. And so they're just kind of, they're starting to feel okay, and then they're moving on to somewhere often inappropriate, and then they're coming back through the systems again.
So how can the homelessness cycle be broken?
A lot of money has been put into focusing on crisis homelessness, which ultimately is great for a band-aid fix, but the concerns and the issues, young people or people experiencing homelessness need support. They don't just need bricks and mortar, they need support, they need assistance, they need links to, into preventing longer term homelessness, and there's not a lot of options. The government really needs to be doing more. They need to take some responsibility and really, I suppose, focus on what are the long-term impacts.
Other countries like Finland have done just this by shutting down all of their crisis beds, instead focusing on giving out longer-term leases in what has proven to be an extremely effective reintegration project. Not so in Australia. In fact,
it's been 10 years since there was any real policy initiative occurring in relation to homelessness.
But when it comes to addressing the problem at an institutional level, we can start by looking to our universities. RMIT University is setting up a course in homelessness.
We are teaching students who are potentially going to be working in the areas of housing, of health, of welfare, all areas that are affected by homelessness. Also, universities have the opportunity to provide educational pathways for people who've experienced homelessness, whether that's through the TAFE system or the higher education system. So we have an opportunity to engage people who've been marginalised, who've been oppressed, to actually enter into education and hopefully improve their trajectories into the employment sector.
But getting out of the homelessness cycle will remain a challenge as long as we continue to ignore the plight of the homeless community.
It is at that point where you literally have to have nowhere to go. There definitely does need to be a bit more out there helping with homelessness and stuff like this. It's because I've been in a loophole for years, doing the same thing, going round and round. It's not easy.